Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome once again to the WINC Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Rubenstein, joined on Wednesdays, as always, for our SmackDown Live recaps by David Bixenspan. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm having a good morning. How about you on the left coast?
Things are going well here. I know, the big Apple news today, I feel like is overshadowed perhaps SmackDown Live and what's coming up this weekend with the Backlash pay-per-view, but we're going to soldier on and keep moving forward to talk about last night's SmackDown Live and our predictions going into the Backlash pay-per-view, the first SmackDown-only pay-per-view of this new era. So with that in mind, let's kick things off and get right to it. Of course, later in the show, we will also have an update on CM Punk and talk about our predictions for his debut on Saturday. But first, SmackDown. What did you think of the start with Daniel Bryan out there giving the most overt plug I think I've ever heard Daniel Bryan give for something in plugging Total Bellas, in fact, getting booed a little bit of people that wanted him to talk more about the women's championship, and then having all of the women, the female contenders, all six of them come out for this little round robin promo that erupted, of course, into a brawl. What did you think of that opening of the show, David?
I thought it was funny how clearly mortified he was to be doing this with the plug.
Yeah, he's like, I got to earn my money, man. But, I don't know if you watched Talking Smack, the post show afterwards, but he was doing it again there, too. And it makes me wonder, at this point, what does the WWE have on him? Or is he just completely done a 180 and become the best sport, post-retirement, figuring what else do I have to lose? It's either this or go back to the bingo halls. I'm just gonna dance for the man, as it were.
I mean, he's under contract. And I mean, there was, all the talk about that it was frozen because of the missed time at one point, but now it's not, because he is a contracted. He is performing as a contracted talent, even if he's not wrestling. So the clock is ticking on his contract again. So I wonder if maybe that's part of why he feels okay with doing it. But I don't know. It is weird because he clearly still has some issues with being around wrestling this much after everything that happened. But he's such a nice guy. I think he is a good sport with all this. But I mean, as far as the segment, it was enjoyable enough. I thought Becky Lynch did a tremendous job with her promo.
Becky was fantastic as always. Now, just for people that didn't watch it and that choose to listen to our recap instead, Becky came out and was, talking about why, of course, she wants to be the first ever SmackDown Women's Champ, interrupted by Natalya, who was then interrupted by Alexa Bliss, who was then interrupted by Carmella. And of course, within three of them, Becky not so subtly turning them against one another there with petty grievances in the ring. And then I thought just doing a phenomenal job in her role of like, oh no, you guys go ahead, fine. Of course, before it erupted into an all-out brawl, and then we had Naomi and Nikki Bella getting involved with it. With that being said, I don't want to spoil what we're going to talk about later with our Backlash predictions, but do you think Becky's going to get the title first, or do you think it's going to be Nikki, or how do you think this is going to shake out?
It feels like they're building towards Becky, but you never know with them if that's building towards a heel getting it and then her chasing.
Yeah, I feel like they've been building towards Becky since WrestleMania. Even more overtly because Sasha was out so much. I felt like Becky was really putting that feud with Charlotte. I mean, it seems like Becky, might be. I think if she doesn't get it this time, it's really going to start to feel, but maybe that's good for story though. That idea that, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And then we're going to see something more substantial happen when she finally does win the belt. Maybe it'll be that much more satisfying.
Yeah. But also maybe you do want to have a contrast to Raw too.
Yeah.
You have the strong heel champ. So I think it'll be Becky or Nikki probably, but I think the question is which of the two. Based on the direction, I would say Becky. I mean, I feel like it would be a little too gutting right now to not give her the title, especially if it was going to another babyface. Like, I don't think they've really done anything in the direction of indicating that'll go to Natalya, who's by far the best candidate of the heels. So I would think it's Becky.
I would think on the Vegas betting sites, there's some guy out there with a hope, a dream, looking to make a killing, just wanting to put $5 on Naomi for the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champ, thinking, man, if this pays off, it's going to be, a phrase Virgil said to refer to his winnings.
You can say F. We can say F money.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing. I mean, it seems like maybe we'll get swerved with this. Maybe there'll be that big surprise, and there'll be something that's good. Which we could talk about what's happening with the tag titles coming up here. But we had that promo, which of course led to this. Okay, so here's my complaint. I mean, I know SmackDown, by the virtue of being 2 hours, seems like just a joyous breeze compared to sometimes the long slog that Monday Night Raw is at 3 hours. But once again this week, what did we have? 6-woman tag match. This idea, I know we griped about this in previous episodes of this podcast, but that, hey, we got 6 women on the SmackDown roster. Let's put them all in the ring together for another match. Or let's have 4 of them in the ring and 2 of them on commentary. You don't have to bring out all 6 women every week. I know it's building up towards the first championship, but does that make it feel less special to you that we're going to see the 6-pack challenge, this 1-by-1 elimination on Sunday with Backlash? But, I mean, we've seen all 6 of these women every week. I mean, certainly since Nikki's been back.
Yeah, but I did enjoy that match later. They gave them plenty of time. They had a very good, well-moving, kind of action-packed 6-woman tag. I thought it was better than the SummerSlam match. The SummerSlam match was good, but this got more time, and the crowd was much more into it. They were kind of put in the death spot at SummerSlam. So,
here, I mean, it was definitely one of the high points of the show.
Even though it's been redundant and just feels like it's exposing the lack of numbers on the women's roster to keep doing this, I enjoyed it, and I think they probably won't do it after the title match because you won't have to focus on here are these 6 women as much.
Yeah. No, I definitely see that. I mean, what'd you think about having Carmella win last night?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, she's not clicking.
Yeah.
So might as well give her a win, just throw some mystery into everything. Now, by the way, did I miss it or just forget it since last night? Or has no one brought up that the GM is the brother-in-law of one of the competitors?
On Talking Smack, it gets brought up all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, every time Daniel Bryan talks about Nikki, Renee Young is like, and of course, your sister-in-law, so yeah, every time on Talking Smack that gets brought up. But no, I thought the end of that match was interesting. Using the Raj Giri school of booking, Nikki tapping out to Carmella. What does that tell us about Sunday's Backlash pay-per-view match? That is that going to be the distraction?
The way WWE books, that means that Nikki's winning the title. If you're going by the usual WWE 50-50, who gets beaten on the show before the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. And of course, we'll talk about predictions later in the episode. So, we had that promo, of course, followed by that match later in the night. Then, there was some backstage segments with Dean Ambrose building up to what was going to happen later in the night with him facing off with AJ Styles. And it's interesting that they kept saying they're going to face off in the middle of the ring, so it wasn't a contract signing. It wasn't a match, but they were going to face off in the middle of the ring. So we had Daniel Bryan backstage talking about his matchup with Dolph Ziggler that's coming up at Backlash. But we had The Miz versus Apollo Crews with Ziggler on commentary. Bet you no one out there can guess. Did Ziggler and The Miz perhaps get into it at the end of the match? I mean, he was sitting right there ringside. I actually thought Apollo put on a great show of athleticism in this match. I thought Apollo, after sort of being, lackluster but good matches, I thought that this was more of a showcase for his moveset. What did you think of the match and the matchup itself?
Is my mic working okay? Because you were breaking up for a sec.
Oh, dude, now you're totally distorted. So jiggle that for a second there, and let's see if it's clear coming through on my end.
I can hear you okay now. Am I okay now?
Nah, you're still distorted.
Okay, be right back. You carry things for a minute.
I'm going to carry things here for a moment or two while David Bixenspan fixes his microphone. Actually, you know what? In fact, that would be a great time to tell people and remind them. DDP Yoga, sponsor of this fine episode of this fine podcast. DDP Yoga has changed countless lives, and many of the past and current roster have benefited immensely from it. Guys like Jake the Snake Roberts, Scott Hall, Chris Jericho, and Mick Foley, Gold Dust, all swear by DDP Yoga. In fact, Gold Dust says he's in the best shape of his life. Look at Mick Foley. Look how good he looks right now. DDP Yoga. DDP Yoga is taking it to a whole new level now too, with the new app for iOS and Android devices. So you've got no excuse because you can take it anywhere. And the cool thing about their new app is that you can track more than just your yoga workout. You can also connect it to a Bluetooth heart rate monitor. You can track calories and heart rate in real time, whether you're at the gym, on your yoga mat, or even while you're out mowing the lawn. And all the fitness tracking features, including pain tracking, measurements, progress photos, and more, are completely free in the DDP Yoga app. And DDP Yoga Now subscribers, you're not going to get tired of doing the same workouts because they've added completely new DDP Yoga 2.0 workouts, weekly live workouts live from the DDP Yoga Performance Center, and motivational messages every Monday from DDP himself. If you can handle that intensity, you got to check this out. It's great. It's a great way to keep you motivated and on track straight from DDP. And he even is hosting his own cooking show on the app, which will show you how to make healthy food taste amazing. For a limited time now, you can get the DDP Yoga DVDs for 15% off, plus 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app. Head on over to ddpyoga.com/wrestlinginc. That's ddpyoga.com/wrestlinginc. Stop procrastinating and get started now with DDP Yoga. And of course, you know him, you love him, regular sponsor of this podcast, Trendy Butler. It's a fantastic clothing service that does all the work for you. You select a style profile, and Trendy Butler has a stylist hand-pick clothes that cater to your needs. Even better, for only $65, you get over $150 in designer clothes. Make sure to use the code WRESTLING10 at sign-up to get $10 off. You can find out more about them at twitter.com/trendybutler, instagram.com/trendy_butler, and of course, trendybutler.com. Take it from me. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who gets the majority of his wardrobe from the WWE shop. If you want to look like a grown-up, if you want to look like a stylish guy, like Wrestling Inc. co-founder Raj Giri, who always puts me to shame when we do these podcasts together, got to check out Trendy Butler. That's trendybutler.com and use the code WRESTLING10 at sign up to get $10 off. Of course, we thank Trendy Butler and DDP Yoga for sponsoring this podcast. So while I wait for David Bixenspan to return, let's go over a little bit, and tease the match card of what we're looking at for Backlash. Let's just do a complete rundown. Of course, at the top, the main event, the WWE Championship, is going to be on the line this Sunday at Backlash. Dean Ambrose, the champion, defending against AJ Styles, coming, still seemingly fresh off his win at SummerSlam against John Cena. We have a match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship between The Miz, the champion, defending against Dolph Ziggler. Of course, Ziggler lost his bid for the championship at SummerSlam, so now he's down a notch, although The Miz would argue, of course, that the Intercontinental title is the most prestigious belt in all of the WWE, if an A-lister like himself is holding it. And we're going to have a six-pack challenge to crown the first SmackDown Women's Champion, and of course, that's going to be Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch versus Carmella, Natalya versus Alexa Bliss versus Naomi. Then this is going to be interesting. We'll talk about this storyline later in the episode, but American Alpha out of the title picture for the WWE SmackDown tag team titles. We're going to have this second chance matchup between the Usos and the Hype Bros. And then, of course, the winner of that is going to go on to face Rhino and Heath Slater to see who is going to be the first SmackDown tag team champions. And then, of course, we also have Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt, of which there were, it seemed like a lot of attention, a lot of promotion for that match on last night's episode.
Too much.
Too much promotion. What did you think of that? And again, do you agree with me that the more you let Bray, actually, I'm going to say this right now, the more you let Bray Wyatt and the more you let Randy Orton talk, the less intimidating either one of them seem. It just completely ruins the gimmick. Less is more, man.
I actually kind of like the Orton thing, and I apologize for the somewhat diminished audio quality, but for now it'll make do. Next week everything should be back to normal.
Yeah.
I kind of like the weird Orton Snake story thing more than most people.
It was a long story, and I'm a guy who tells some long stories, but at one point I was just like, so wait, is he the man or the snake? Is he the rabbit? I mean, it was a very, very long, an editor, someone could have just gone through this with a red pen. I mean, you're a writer, David. Someone could have gone through this and knocked down, I think, to maybe 5 sentences.
There would have been, if they did it in Google Docs, there would have been just a ton of notes on the right side.
Yeah, it'd be like, you don't have to keep restating. It's like, if you do this short enough, there's no need to restate again and again who everyone is and what the setup is and the standing and the rabbit and everyone wants their. It was a very convoluted story. So Bray told a story in his misty dungeon with this rocking chair. And now I'm going to say, unless you're maybe a pregnant mother, I think there should be a rule when I'm in charge. This will be no one under the age of 50 gets to sit in a rocking chair. It looks weird. It's not imposing. It looks I think with Bray, here's a guy, who's pushing 30, sitting there trying to seem like, old man story time down on the bayou. And I think with Bray, they need to just not reboot the character, but they need to figure out, okay, here's what makes him look cool. And when he has followers, he looks creepy and imposing. But when he's by himself, it's just Husky Harris in a different outfit, spouting on some drawl. I thought that look he had at the start of the SmackDown Live era when he was out there in the hoodie, no hat, just really showing off the dreadlocks. And he looked just like sort of, like he just came from the gathering of the Juggalos. I think that was the better Bray look. But I think to take him back to swamp cult leader without a cult is not scary.
Yeah. I mean, just we keep talking about this every week. He's cold. Without the Wyatt family, it's even worse. But he needs... I don't know if it's that he has too much free reign on his promos or that he's being too scripted, but either way, he needs some better coaching on his promos. I'm trying to think who could do it. I mean, I don't know who like his main producer is on the main roster.
Get Freddie Prinze Jr. back. Get him in there to work with him, and give him some of his acting advice that, he learned from movies like She's All That and Summer Catch and his short-lived sitcom Freddie. I think Freddie.
Wait. So are you saying that you do not enjoy She's All That?
No, I love She's All That. And I'm just saying FPJ, I think, can come in here and turn this around. I actually, first off, not to digress, I was delighted by the interviews he's been giving, because when you heard, hey, Freddie Prinze Jr. worked for the WWE, oh, isn't that wacky? Isn't that funny? Isn't that kind of random? But no, listen to his interview on Jericho's podcast. Listen to some of the interviews he's been giving. I think that guy was actually highly beneficial to the product. Say what you will about his film repertoire, but I think that he actually was very, very good at helping these guys understand. This is how you sell. This is how you act. This is how you emote, with less being more. And I think that Bray could really use just an afternoon, or get one of the villains from one of these WWE Studios films, get one of these character actors just to come in there and be like, man, you don't have to just
Robert Patrick.
Yeah. Robert Patrick would be a fantastic acting coach for Bray Wyatt. Just come in there and explain to a man like, hey, you know what? Sometimes saying less is scarier than laying it all out there. And he's got to drop the Eater of Worlds thing. All I keep thinking about is somewhere out there, Bray Wyatt has got a Match.com profile and it says body type, Eater of Worlds. It's just, it's not, like, unless you're Galactus, you're not a goddamn Eater of Worlds. It's not a good line. It's not a good gimmick.
Well, there might be some ways in which Eater of Worlds might actually be a good line on a dating profile. But anyway.
Yeah. But so we had these promos. I mean, did it make you any more hyped for the match at Backlash? I mean, I've seen them do the match.
No.
I've seen them do the match twice. They did the match both days at the house shows I went to last month, and it was a good match. They put on a solid show together. I think their match is actually going to be pretty damn good. I can't wait to see the Sister Abigail into the RKO. But these promos, there's no storyline. There's no context. There's not even like a petty feud or grievance in this. It's just that, like, Bray's like, you're crazy, I'm crazier. And then it's just very frustrating to me, because I think they could have done a decent job to set this up into a storyline. And instead we just have this framework and template,
So I have a question. Those house shows you went to in the Bay Area, the matches they did, to me, the problem with Bray in the ring as opposed to his promos is that you have a guy who's like a really deceptively good, dynamic, explosive athlete.
Yeah.
But his character keeps him from being able to do most of that stuff in the ring. Was he showing that stuff with Orton, or was it more of an Orton-style match?
No, there was some nice back and forth. And the thing that I like, actually seeing Bray at a house show a year ago really turned me on Bray Wyatt. I didn't get the whole Wyatt family thing. I'm still now I want to be a fan. So my criticism comes from a point of view of actually really liking him and thinking he has a lot of potential. They're not even that he's packaged wrong. They're just delivering it wrong. But I think that with seeing Bray at a house show where he was having fun and able to smile a little bit and do this little back and forth and be more playful with it, I actually think that's a much more dynamic match when he doesn't have to worry about being in character so much, and I think that's where he has more versatility and potential than what they're giving him right now. So I think we're going to see a really nice back and forth with this, and we'll talk about our predictions later in the show. But yeah, those promos took up way too much time last night. Speaking of something that went on for way too long, what you think about Fandango's segment that we had? Fandango with the mic talking about how Tyler Breeze was off in Dubai buying silk for future outfits. Fandango brings up an audience member to dance with him, and then of course Kane comes out because Kane's got the fire that Fandango was looking for. I mean, it seemed like such a weird little segment. What'd you make of it?
They've been doing a lot of weird stuff like this the last couple weeks. I kind of enjoyed it for what it was, which was just not the weird planted fan part that I wasn't crazy about, but Fandango was great. Kane did his part. So I found it enjoyable once the fake fan wasn't part of the segment anymore.
Yeah, if you're going to hire these plants, can you at least maybe narrow it down to 3 of them and then put them on a video camera backstage and figure out which one's the best talker or has the best comedic timing? I feel like sometimes they hire these plants and it's this was like the Sunny Boy thing all over again. It's like you should be looking. I mean, I know that maybe where were they? Lincoln, Nebraska, maybe not the strongest talent market, but
is that where they were?
I think it was in Nebraska. Yeah, that's why they were doing the "Go Big Red" chant for Kane at the end.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, because that's Nebraska's thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with them doing those segments. I just think they should just try and get a little better with it. But so what my thought that I was thinking when Fandango was out there and Kane came out was I was like, oh man, this could be SmackDown's version of the Golden Truth if this plays out. And I just like the image flashed in my head, Kane and Fandango. I mean, think about the potential there for a moment of just what a great tag team that would be.
They could call them Kane Dango.
Kane Dango. Oh, it writes itself. I think, so I think the idea for this, I mean, as I'm thinking about it more, I think the idea was they knew they would get the Go Big Red chance. So I think this was one to give the Kane something to do, but I think that this was them playing to the local crowd, knowing that when Kane came out, he would get that monster reaction. No pun intended.
Yes, but they also did the weird Kane segment the week before too.
That is true. So Kane is now the king of weird segments. I mean, let me just ask your preference: Demon Kane or Corporate Kane at this point?
In the ring or on promos or both?
See, I think in the ring it's roughly similar, right? It's not like he has a completely different moveset.
I think not that different. I feel like there was a period where a couple years ago, when the Corporate Kane gimmick first started, that Corporate Kane was better because he didn't have to deal with the monster shit in the match.
Yeah.
But now because he's slowed down a lot in the last year or so, I think he's better in the ring as Demon Kane because he kind of needs to rely on that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Whereas I think
the
more entertaining character is Corporate Kane.
Corporate Kane is comedic gold, in my opinion. I never get tired of that, ever. I mean, just he does it so well. Just that sort of goofy, well-meaning, yet don't push him too far. And now that you say that, I think even as Corporate Kane, he should have a different moveset, or Corporate Kane should be more careful because, he wants to win the match, but he doesn't want to hurt you to the point where you miss any work because that's bad for productivity. So I think Corporate Kane maybe should be a little more careful in the ring. But no, it looks like Demon Kane is back full time now based on these segments, though. And I think we're going to be hopefully this will build towards something, or maybe it'll just be a sideshow.
I don't even know what you use it to build towards. And also, I mean, nothing against the guy. He seems like a really nice guy, smart guy, underrated performer. He really has hit a wall, though. I mean, he finally has slowed down. I mean, he was always a very mobile guy for his size, but it's like this last year or so, like I said, he seems like he's kind of done, and we know he kind of has one foot out the door anyway, that he may very well be running for
a thriving Allstate. Is it Allstate or Farmers? He's got a thriving insurance
company he has an office for, but he's also looking at running for mayor of Knox County, too. Yeah. So,
no, I feel like with Kane, Kane is like what would happen if they never protected the Undertaker and kept him out of the ring to build the mystique at this point. I feel like Kane never had. Yes. Kane's always been a little overexposed to where I think, but you know what? I bet you if they kept him off TV for 6 months or a year, and he's had some lengthy time being off TV, but I think if they kept him away and then brought it back, he could do now this. Well, I mean, literally he could do the SmackDown version, sort of the B-level version of the Undertaker shtick, maybe come out and do, 2 important matches a year. But I think he's more of a workhorse than that. I think they rely on him a lot because he's a good performer in the ring. He's got a solid gimmick, and people like working with him. Yeah. So there was that last night. But now let's talk about really what the main event, the main point of last night's SmackDown was. Going into it, we were supposed to crown the 2 contenders for the SmackDown tag team title tournament that were going to have their final match Sunday at Backlash. So to start with, we had the Usos versus American Alpha. Now, we talked about this before in terms of that it seemed like Rhino and Slater were being built as the winners of this. How were they going to do this, and how were they going to deal with the final 2 teams being American Alpha, the most technically gifted and proficient wrestling team, perhaps in the entire WWE? How are they going to deal with them going up against Rhino and Slater, who, while competent in-ring performers, this has largely been a comedic storyline, and one that, myself and other people have been highly invested in. So this idea was, how are they going to do this and still put Rhino and Slater over at the expense of American Alpha? We saw how last night, because American Alpha came out, had a very sub 60-second match with the Usos, only then for the Usos to do a complete heel turn, attack American Alpha afterwards, and injure Chad Gable to the point where on Talking Smack, it was announced that American Alpha now cannot compete in the finals for the tag tournament. What do you think about this result? And what do you think about the evil Usos, who apparently have been drinking so much 5-hour energy, it's just turned them into complete a-holes?
It's funny you bring up the 5-hour energy, because last night was the time where it finally clicked to me, should these guys who are kind of pushed kids really be pushing 5-hour energy?
All I ever think about when I see that 5-hour energy commercial with the Usos, where they're like, got a press conference, I'm like, what's the last time the Usos did a press conference? What would that be like? I would like to see, in fact, I would like someone to send me, post in the comments or tweet at me on Twitter. I want documented proof that the Usos have ever done a press conference. And if they did, I'm betting money that it had to do for some foundation or some charity. I do not see any other instance where the Usos felt the need to make themselves press available for questions in that sort of setting. But that aside, so what do you think about the Usos turning heel now?
I thought that was a really well executed heel turn. They kind of ticked all the boxes they needed to, that they made American Alpha look really strong. They gave the Usos a reason to snap after they had been teasing the heel turn. They were able to get American Alpha out of the title tournament final so they can chase. And the Usos, you know what I was oddly impressed by? How, what's the best way to put this? How technically efficient they were in executing the physicality of the turn.
Yeah.
The specificity of the moves they were using on Gable's knee, they made a point of thinking of, what can we do that'll actually make it look like we're blowing out his knee?
Yeah.
And then when they did I loved how they set up the splash, where I always forget if it's Jimmy or Jay who does the splash, but one puts him in the old Conan Tequila Sunrise. So he has everything except the bad leg isolated. Mm-hmm. I loved that. You know what I mean? I mean, he's holding on to everything except for the bad leg. The bad leg's isolated, and his brother can splash it. I thought that was a cool way to do it. But I thought this came off great. I thought this was a home run of a segment. This did everything they needed. Now, having not seen Talking Smack, I mean, I'm looking at what the official listing is. It's listed as the Usos / Hype Brothers.
Yeah, second
versus
chance
Heath Slater and Rhino. So is this a 3-way or are they doing a pre-show match?
No, there's going to be probably a kickoff at the start of the pay-per-view. There's going to be a match between the Hype Bros and the Usos to determine who gets to face Rhino and Slater. It's going to be the second chance match. So,
but have they officially announced it yet?
They announced it last night in Talking Smack. Which, David, I can't believe you're not watching. It's actually
okay. The reason I ask is because they don't have it on the website. They don't have the kickoff match on the website, and it's Wikipedia hasn't added it yet.
Yeah, it might not be the first match of the night, but no, Shane McMahon made an appearance on Talking Smack last night to state that there's going to be this match to determine who the other finalist is. So speaking of which, what did you think about the Hype Bros versus Rhino and Slater?
It was fine. I kind of wonder whether they should give Heath a little more agency, and since they're not supposed to be straight up heels, a little more credibility in the team. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe they're saving that for if they're winning the title Sunday, that he actually gets like the pin and he's actually the one deserving and sets it up. But I feel like they just need a little more to them right now. I mean, does that make sense?
I felt like this week, in place of more storyline and development, so there were two things this week. One, they hired a bunch of child actors to pretend to be Heath's 7 children. And in a nice nod to continuity, I know we had our critiques of the segment at Heath's single wide trailer with his wife, but they brought the actress out. She didn't even speak. They hired the same actress to come out there, and who knows, for all we know, it's someone on WWE production staff or creative, but they had the same actress out there in the audience. Continuity nod, in addition to all the children that Heath hugged after the episode. The thing that concerns me was that JBL, I feel like they used a couple times the term hillbilly, like last night in describing Heath Slater, and that worries me a little bit of where they might be going with the character. Post, going forward, because I feel like this whole hottest free agent thing has actually been fantastic. I've loved that. I'm really shocked WWE Shop has not started selling those free agent shirts, because I think that they're actually, subtle, but kind of cool. The WWE merchandises everything. I mean, if you look at they will come out with shirts sometimes to try and force a gimmick. So it's weird that they would have Heath wearing that shirt so much and then not sell it. But
they've been a lot less hesitant to market stuff than they used to.
Oh my God.
Like, it used to be that they wouldn't necessarily do stuff for certain undercard guys, but now it seems like just if there's something, boom, there's a shirt.
Come on. They're still trying to get rid of those Sheamus 515 shirts. That, I
don't even remember what that was.
Sheamus came out. Remember Roman Reigns was champ for 5 minutes and 15 seconds?
Oh, they actually sold those?
Oh, yeah. No, they had them immediately because Sheamus was, yeah. Sheamus wore the shirt, kept saying, Sheamus 515 says, I just kicked your ass, but it should have been arse because that would have been character consistent. Yeah, they're still trying to get rid of those Sheamus 515 shirts.
How much are they? If I were to go to the WWE Shop right now, do you know?
I think you could probably go in for $10.
Okay. I'll look.
Yeah. Surprising side note. So WWE has been doing these mystery boxes lately for $25. You get 5 shirts. Now, myself and everyone else predicted you'd be getting in those 5 shirts, some Sheamus 515 shirts, some Ryback merchandise, perhaps some weird forgotten merchandise they had for Cameron they're trying to get rid of. But no, those mystery boxes actually have decent shirts. In the first ones that went out, there were like Asuka shirts and Sami Zayn shirts and, a decent enough variety that I'm actually thinking about ordering one of them because, I like having more wrestling shirts. That Sheamus 515 shirt still selling, yet not on clearance yet. I'm just waiting because I know I mentioned it podcasts ago. Waiting for those Social Outcast shirts to hit clearance, but no, they're still $25. So I think that's the thing. All this merchandise, yet no Heath Slater free agent t-shirt. And he's not going to be a free agent after Backlash. So they missed a fantastic merchandising opportunity for the storyline of the last 6 weeks.
So we're both assuming that they're winning on Sunday, that the Usos or the Hype Bros are not getting the title.
It could be, beating the Usos would be interesting. I mean, first off, it's got to be the Usos now, right? You don't have the Usos do a heel turn only to get defeated
and then lose to the Hype.
And then lose to the Hype Bros. Although the Hype Bros, I contend, have been very solid on the main roster. I think that their act plays a lot better in arenas than Full Sail University.
Yes. Yes, they're not as universal as Enzo Cass.
Well, of course. Could anyone be as universal as Enzo and Cass? But although the Hype Bros kind of play into a similar thing, though, right? I mean, it's this idea where it's like some people will see the Hype Bros or Enzo and Cass and be like, oh my God, what douchebags. But then you listen for a minute with Enzo and Cass and you're like, no, but they're brilliant. With the Hype Bros, I don't think the brilliant part necessarily, I don't think they've done anything to specify that. Maybe if you say that they're sort of ironic, then that would win over.
Breaking news.
What's that?
So you were wrong about the Sheamus 515 shirt.
What about it?
They only have one size left, but guess how much they're charging?
25
They only
bucks?
have it left in small. What?
25 or 10?
Lower.
5.
$4.99, yeah.
$4.99. So if you're size small and you feel like, oh man, I missed out on the Sheamus 515 thing, head on over to WWE Shop. I think there's a Wrestling Inc. promo code somewhere on the website. Use that. Go to Wrestling Inc., find the WWE Shop promo code, and use that there on your order.
And it does say, I just bro kicked your arse.
Yeah.
On the back.
Does it have arse?
It does say arse. It does say ARS.
Okay, it does have arse. Or that's what it was. It was Finn Balor when he was talking about Seth Rollins getting his ass handed to him. That I was like, that's wrong.
Well, I guess, you know what that means? That must mean that saying arse is something that they've deemed as like Sheamus's gimmick that must be protected.
Yeah, Finn's Irish, but Sheamus is super Irish. Have you seen his entrance? He's been to Ireland. He took those photos. Yeah. Oh man. So we have that going on, and we'll talk about our predictions going forward. But let's just quickly talk about what happened with AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose facing off in the center of the ring. Man, they're really, really, really. I know we talked about last week about how much they're selling the AJ Styles groin injury, but no, now this is like a storyline point. This is now a character thing. Like, AJ Styles, getting kicked in or getting dropped on or kicking other people in the nards is that's now part of her shtick, in addition to trying to claim the face that runs the place. What did you think of their face off? Ambrose giving him the bowling trophy and all that stuff.
I didn't think this was as effective as last week. I thought it was a little too. Last week was a good non-final image, as a thing to kind of keep everything going. For the last show before the pay-per-view, I thought this was way too sticky.
Yeah. And what do you think about that? I mean, with AJ and going full heel and full obnoxious heel, in doing this, I feel like they take it a little too far sometimes. I mean, that whole thing last night with breaking the guy's cell phone, and then threatening the guy on the talking smack thing. I mean, this is like the equivalent. If he had a long mustache, he'd be twirling it. That's how over the top they're going with this heel turn.
What I mean? I kind of get what you're saying. I thought I didn't like the phone thing. Especially because the backstage staffers that they use are always just very not the best actors.
Yeah.
In cowering from him. So that wasn't necessarily something they needed. I mean, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
But overall, I just did not think this was a great last push for the pay-per-view. I mean, honestly, it felt like they did a much better job building up the women's title match than the tag title, and to a degree the tag titles, because that one was kind of in flux. But it felt like this was in third place. It was a little weird. I mean, yeah, it was the last segment, but otherwise.
Well, and that's the thing. So, I mean, the angle now, the storyline is AJ defeated John Cena at SummerSlam and thinks that now he should be getting all this respect, but he's not getting it. So the only way to get it is to beat Dean Ambrose for the title. I get that. That's a pretty clear through line, but I feel like, they've been as subtle as a sledgehammer in how they've sold that and his motivation. But yeah, I mean, okay. So let's work backwards when we talk about our Backlash predictions. And my first one to you is, who wins the match between Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles this Sunday? And how heavily do they lean on groin area injuries in this match and in the pivotal moments of this match?
I don't think you can go too far with it, because if it's AJ that does it, and I think AJ's probably winning, then he's kind of getting revenge. And should the heel really be getting revenge?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know if my gut feels like they probably would do something, but if I think AJ's winning, so probably not. I don't think you should have the symmetry if he's winning, because he's a heel.
Yeah. Well, I have a mixed opinion about like the benefits and detriments of a Styles win at Backlash over Ambrose. I feel like with Ambrose right now, I think they haven't taken it as far as they can go with an Ambrose title win. And I feel that it's taken a while for Ambrose to get sort of comfortable in this position and how he's played it. And I feel like we've seen some real moments of greatness, and then just some moments of like I didn't like the Mean Dean thing he was doing to Dolph, but I think Ambrose being the face works really well. I think it suits him well. I think he does that character very well. And I don't know. You might be right though, because this being the first SmackDown only pay-per-view, they have to do something to get people interested. I mean, this runs the risk, right, of being like one of the lowest viewed pay-per-views of the year, doesn't it?
I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter with the network, but it does feel like a pretty cult show. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Since you're having more than one show a month and you're not really caring about selling these on pay-per-views, it's almost like the value proposition of now you get 2 pay-per-views a month for $9.99 is the big deal here.
They should just they should just bring Sunday Night Heat back at this point and just do Sunday Night Heat Backlash. I mean, at this point, if you're going to have a pay-per-view every 2 to 3 weeks, let's just make it a weekly show. You might get more people to tune in on a regular basis.
Or you could maybe alternate and do, like, some of them aren't called pay-per-views or aren't even offered outside of the network as pay-per-views. Like, I believe, is it Backlash or Clash of the Champions that's not going to be on traditional pay-per-view? Due to the timing. I forgot which. It's one of them.
Clash of the Champions has to be on. I mean, I would be shocked if they don't.
Raw. I mean, I'm guessing it's Backlash. I mean, I think it's the only one because of the timing that they weren't able to get the slot.
Oh,
but
maybe.
I feel like people would digest these a little better if it was something like, you did it like WCW had. You have a series of Clash of the Champions specials. Instead of on free TV, they're on the network. And you could play around with the day of the week. And I would do so. I mean, yeah, on one hand, you're not going to be able to say now you get 2 pay-per-views a month. But I feel like it's more digestible to fans if you're not getting 2 pay-per-views a month, if you call it something else.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, some weeks feels like a lot of work to keep up with everything going on in the WWE universe. And I think maybe if they rein it in and we start having 2-hour pay-per-views with the exception of SummerSlam and WrestleMania, I think that would be manageable. But I mean, thank God. I mean, I haven't seen anything about a pre-show or, this isn't going to be, I mean, looking at the card, there's like 6 matches. This isn't going to be a 4-hour pay-per-view again. I don't think I could handle that. I don't think Raj could handle that. Man, that guy looked like he was about ready just to keel over and die after SummerSlam weekend, and all the wrestling he had to consume. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think, I think if AJ doesn't win, I see your point that AJ winning will further establish SmackDown and maybe give a little more heat, a little more momentum. So I think maybe best for the brand is having AJ win at this point, because a Dean win is just comfort, in the status quo. And no one tunes in to see the status quo, I guess is what I'm saying. But let's keep going and jump back to the tag titles a second. I mean, I know we covered this, but just your official prediction. Who do you think walks out of there as the first SmackDown tag team champions?
Okay, so it's Usos. I mean, Usos have to beat the Hype Bros. That's Usos versus Slater and Rhino, who I presume are official. Are they officially baby faces then because of this, or are we calling this heel versus heel?
No, I think. I mean, Rhino and Slater. I mean, they've been. I think Slater has been a baby face. I think actually, their whole thing. I mean, okay, forget Finn Balor and the jetpack they put on him. Rhino and Slater is what? Can you think of better character development that we've actually seen in recent months of actually telling a story of a character's journey from one place to the other?
For Slater, I don't think so. I mean, the amazing thing is, I mean, they still as much as he's portrayed as a goof, they still did let him stand up to Brock Lesnar.
Oh, he's been the star. I mean, this is no joke, people. This is no hyperbole. This isn't just Glenn trying to be funny and stretch something for a point. Heath Slater is the star of the new era. If you look back, post Battleground, he was an afterthought. That joke about him being left in the room with the lights turned off wasn't even on SmackDown for the draft. It was on the post show on the network. He went from that to being on Raw and SmackDown every single episode in the build up to SummerSlam, having a segment, teaming with Rhino, giving Rhino storyline motivation. And now to the point where I don't know if it started as a legit storyline. It probably just started as sort of a ha-ha funny joke. Let's do it. But I think the audience reaction has now convinced them to build this into a heavily audience invested storyline. I mean, if they don't win this, I don't think you could just go back to having him show up on Raw and SmackDown each week begging for a job. I feel like they have to win this to bring the storyline to a satisfying conclusion, but it's the WWE. So who said you have a right to feel satisfied by how a storyline ends?
So, I mean, what you go with from there then is they kind of do have to win because Slater does need to get the contract. So does that mean that Usos versus American Alpha is a side program with Slater and Rhino versus whoever being the tag title program, or did they just drop the belts to the Usos on the following SmackDown?
See, I'm of two minds about it, but I know I said this before. I love American Alpha, and I feel so invested in them from their storyline of coming together to the point where they won at TakeOver in Dallas. I mean, you know, I won't lie. I got a little misty-eyed there in the building because it felt like, oh my God, here's this year-long story that's coming to a conclusion. They're finally getting their moments of triumph, holding up the belts. Hey, we did it, right? It's like the ending of the Karate Kid and Rocky all rolled into one. They had their moment. And then as champions, American Alpha were kind of boring. I mean, they had their clash with the Revival, but you know what I mean? Like, hey, we have these two guys on top and they're really good guys and they're really proficient wrestlers and they're like amazing on an athletic level that very few people can match. Okay, how do we make that interesting every week? And when they're like the most over faces, you know, in the tag team division, how do you book that going forward? If you have, it's like the Kurt Angle problem. You know what I mean? It's like, so if you're a super gifted athlete and you have all this athletic cred, you have to be a monster a-hole or else it's not an interesting character as the champ.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get that. Or you can be just, you know, like the Steiners seem like they're kind of a model for them. You can just be really dominant as a team. I mean, I think you can do that too. I mean, it's not interesting in a storyline way, but for them, I think it fits.
See, but it's sports entertainment, David.
Sure.
The entertainment part. See, I think now with American Alpha, we have a really good storyline in place. To where
so are we going? Go ahead.
Oh no, I mean, because with the injury, right? So they pulled this. So Gable's going to be out for like 40. And it was weird how Shane was doing it. It's like in this era of actual injuries, they have to come locked and loaded with all the spiel every time they announce one of these kayfabe injuries. So they were like, oh no, you know, meniscus and, you know, and it's 4 to 6 weeks, no surgery, but he just needs some time to recover. You know, it's like they give you this very nice condensed storyline planned, window. So, I mean, what I think they do is I think they have Rhino and Slater win. Then Rhino and Slater, you know, get to go around with the Usos and the other teams. They get to make the rounds, right? They're going to get to defeat the Vaudevillains, defeat the Ascension, defeat Breezango, put them in something with the Usos, have it conclude around 4 to 6 weeks. And then in at No Mercy in Sacramento, California, where I will be in a month, or maybe the one after that, then you have American Alpha come back and defeat the Usos, and we have this great storyline, you know, about their road to recovery.
I think that works. I mean, so I think, the question is more how long you give Slater and Rhino with the titles, but I don't think, that's maybe a conversation for another day, because they clearly do have to be winning here.
Well, and they have to figure out what do you do with the character. And we talked about this with Bayley. We've talked about this with every other underdog. Underdog's super compelling as the underdog. What do you do when the underdog becomes the top dog? How do you keep that fresh and interesting? So we'll see. But yeah, my money's on Slater and Rhino, but I don't count the Usos completely. Let's talk about the Intercontinental Championship and Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. So they've really tried to shoehorn in this storyline of now Ziggler being the quasi stand-in for Daniel Bryan. I mean, I don't know. my reluctance about being excited for this match is I feel like this is once again the WWE has fumbled the ball, not to mix sports metaphors, but they've absolutely, they had that beautiful promo from The Miz on Daniel Bryan a few weeks ago, and then they really did very little with it. But now we have Dolph Ziggler that is challenging The Miz for the IC championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about this match much. I don't think Ziggler is the right person to switch the title to for Miz after all these months. So I think Miz wins. I mean, I don't really see this as much more than a distraction for now. I feel like Miz has had the title long enough and developed enough momentum, especially now the last couple of weeks, that they need to give it to someone that they're looking to build up a little more. And yeah, Ziggler is clearly to them not that guy.
They should start doing, I think the Miz should start doing Cena's Open, US Challenge, his US Open. You know what I mean? I think the Miz should start doing something like that going forward. From this, of saying like, okay, everyone wants to say that I'm soft, everyone wants to say I'm afraid. I think that maybe we see a more confident Miz after this, and maybe we put him up against, I just think we need to keep the Miz away from Apollo Crews and Dolph Ziggler at this point. It's just, I feel like both of those have no potential to be interesting. But here's the real question, regardless of who wins. Do they show the KFC segment with the Colonel and the Chicken with Ziggler, Miz wrestling? Do they show that before or after their actual match on Backlash?
Ooh. Because as we talked about last week, like it does, now that they're feuding, it really feels weird that you're showing the segment where they had a fake wrestling match together.
With the Miz in a chicken suit and Dolph as the Colonel, where they put enough thought into it that they did makeup, they did a wig.
So we're considering it inevitable, and the question is before or after. Has there been a certain spot of how late it's been in the show so far?
It was pretty late in SummerSlam.
And SmackDown? What about SmackDown?
It was pretty late in SummerSlam. I don't know on SmackDown. I mean, I don't think KFC's buy is up yet. You don't go to that level of promotion for a 2-week buy. You know what I mean?
I'll go with after.
Yeah, I think after is a safe bet, which will really be weird. Even weirder though if it's before. So please, WWE, run it after. It'll be not quite as embarrassing for all those involved. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt. Who wins, and do you care?
I don't know, and no.
I don't think it really matters who wins. Either one, I think, will be like not a satisfying victory. Either one will be like, yeah, that happened, sort of victory. But please just give us an actual storyline. If you're a betting man, $100 on the line, are you that certain we're going to see the Sister Abigail into the RKO?
If Orton wins, I was going to say yes, but this is clearly a feud they're going to drag out for more than one show.
Oh, you think they save that? They don't burn it?
Yeah, so it's, if they're dragging this out for more than one show, my gut is probably that Wyatt wins the first match. Orton wins either second or third with the Sister Abigail into the RKO.
Yeah. See, I think it's the WWE, so we're going to see it like by the time we get to match 3, they'll be doing that 5 times in the same match. Just spamming it again and again and be like, hit it again. I mean, like the RKO, man, like, I mean, people start, I know I go on about this, but people start chanting. I mean, it's the free bird of wrestling. Like people start chanting for that the second Randy comes out, and not just because it's initials, they're chanting for the goddamn move. It's like everyone, he's going to do the RKO. He's not like, when's the last time there was an Orton match where he didn't do the RKO?
I have no idea.
I would hesitate that it has been longer that Leonard Skinner has played a concert without playing Freebird than Randy Orton has done a match without hitting an RKO. Somebody fact check it and leave it in the comments, because it's been a long, long time. That's what people come to see, and by God, he's going to do it. Lastly, let's talk about the women's match. I know we talked about our predictions earlier, but you're thinking Becky for the first SmackDown Women's Champion?
Yeah. I mean, we discussed this pretty in depth earlier, but yeah, I think I've settled on Becky.
Yeah, I could see it being Nikki. I could see it being Natalya. I just think Natalya is so boring as a heel. It's not her worst gimmick. I mean, we know what Natalya's worst gimmick was. I think everyone's on the same page with that. But this is second worst.
I don't know if I'd necessarily go with that.
Do you have a list? That's David. I'm surprised you don't have an article written. The worst gimmicks Natalya has had in the WWE.
I mean, I'd have to think. Well, are we counting Total Divas shtick though? because that would make things interesting.
Now is that kayfabe though? Is Total Divas, or how do they?
Ooh, I guess not. So maybe that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty confident that's Becky.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Natalya also had that weird thing where they were making her out like sort of like hot soccer mom for a while, like with the weird like 80s makeup. Yeah, I mean, Natalya's had some unfortunate gimmicks. I think they're still trying to find something that suits her well. I actually liked before her heel turn. I thought her as just sort of the veteran technician was a pretty good gimmick, but her as a heel is just kind of it just doesn't wear for me. So yeah, I think look, if it's not Natalya, Becky or Nikki, I would be shocked. I feel like I would put a confident money. I would put a substantial sum of money that it's one of the three of them. Yeah. You know, I don't see it being Carmella, Naomi, or Alexa. Although I think Alexa would be fantastic, but I just don't think she's at that status yet.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Although, of course, here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast, immediately after Backlash ends, Matt Morgan, Raj Giri, and Vince Russo will be live to talk about the results of the Backlash pay-per-view. Before we wrap things up and head home for this episode, CM Punk's got his big debut on Saturday. His big fight against Mickey Gall, right?
Yes, sir. I was hearing a noise in the room. Can you hear that?
Yeah. So what's your prediction for how that all goes on Saturday?
He's going to get choked out in a round, probably.
It's unfortunate. You know, I mean, I know I've watched 2 episodes of the documentary. I want to be surprised to see Punk pull this off and do this, because I think at this point, maybe the storyline is that he's in so far over his head, but I don't know. This is UFC.
Oh, no, that was not the storyline on Monday's episode.
Oh, I didn't see. What was the storyline on this week's episode?
Okay, so you've noticed, I'm sure, that each of the sparring sessions so far, they show the name and the record of who he's sparring with, right?
Mm-hmm.
This last guy, they did not. And, of course, this was the guy who Punk pretty much dominated and then tapped out. With a very odd-looking rear naked choke where he did not have his hooks in. He did not have control of the guy's body. It's not necessarily to say that they worked a sparring session for the documentary, but it's possible they found, the worst guy they could find. The whole thing doesn't look like a good sign. He's not. Mickey Gall's just. They could have found other 1-0 level guys who he could have matched up better with. I mean, it's not like there aren't a ton of regional, rookie fighters around. And they found someone who's a legitimate jiu-jitsu brown belt who actually was very competitive with some of the best grapplers in the world at a grappling tournament he did last year. He's a bad matchup. It's become obvious that, as opposed to what everyone thought initially, which was that they kind of staged the whole thing where he was on Dana White's reality show and called out CM Punk. Mm-hmm. No, now it looks like it was that they just decided to go with the first guy was in Punk's weight class that called him out on the reality show. And it's someone who's gonna, I mean, the thing that I guess is the upside to this, the silver lining, is that he's probably not going to badly hurt Punk. He's probably going to take him down and submit him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they would have done this. Actually, you know how they could have booked this really well and gotten a ton of interest. I mean, we were talking about
Green Ranger.
Well, we were talking about this on a Monday night show, and I was comparing this to if Stallone, someone in the 80s said, no, let's actually see Stallone box, that would have been $100 million pay-per-view easily. And I think Stallone actually could have done it and would have been really interesting. But now that I'm thinking about this, you know how they should have booked this? They should have found another former wrestler, another former WWE guy.
Yeah, it is a little... It is a little weird that it doesn't seem like they considered that either. I mean, I'd have to think about who you'd really even want to even consider. Do you look for someone who at least has some kind of interest who trains, even if they're not that much of an athlete or anything? And no one's coming to mind, but there must have been someone they could have found.
Actually, if it had happened a year earlier, so if we were planning a year from now, you know what I'd say? Ryback. It's already right there.
Yeah,
They've
but
already talked.
not the weight class wise, that wouldn't line up.
I know it wouldn't line up, but man, would that be a match. But you know what I mean, though, is that like, it's an interesting UFC match. If you say, hey, we have two professional wrestlers from sports entertainment, then now we're going to do a real fight in UFC. That's an even match. That's an interesting match that no one's sure who's going to win because we don't know how good these guys can actually fight. You know, I think that would have been I'm really surprised they didn't go that route. Maybe they couldn't find anyone else who wanted to do it.
And that's definitely more intriguing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking back if they had gone after Del Rio, and I'm trying to remember if there were any rumors they did. I don't remember hearing that they did. I think it was mostly the other groups that had interest in Del Rio before he re-signed last year.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, Del Rio probably would beat Punk too. So, I mean, Del Rio actually has probably too much of an MMA record that it probably wouldn't have been sanctioned. So, speaking of that, did you see the comments from the head of the Ohio Athletic Commission?
No. So fill everyone in on that.
Okay. People have been digging around Ohio's codes and all that, and it says that someone who is making his pro debut, not even just factoring in Punk's age, which at least in other states, I'm not sure about Ohio, gains additional scrutiny if you're over 35. If you're making your debut, normally you have to have at least 5 amateur bouts if you're making your pro debut in Ohio. You can get exemptions, and that's what happened here. And what Bernie Profato, the head of the commission, said was, well, he has the same type of background as Brock Lesnar, and we've been happy with, and this isn't the exact quote, and we've been working with the UFC and their matchmakers for a long time, so we trust their judgment. So yes, the same background as Brock Lesnar. Yes, CM Punk, former NCAA
exactly
national champion, exactly the same. And if you're a regulator, on top of that, saying this is the same as Brock Lesnar, I trust the promoter is not the stance you should be taking.
Yeah. No,
so I mean, Ohio's got some other weird stuff going on. They're one of the states that still regulates wrestling, and among their rules are that you need special permission to use foreign objects, and their ban on intentional bleeding, not just ban on blading, they ban the use of animal blood.
Oh.
Because that is a thing that happens, apparently. Very weird. The thing that's weird about Ohio too is they're not even a bad commission. It's just Bernie Profato's kind of a doofus.
Animal blood. That sounds like one of. I mean, that wasn't even on Secrets of Wrestling Revealed, right? They weren't like wrestlers secretly keep animal blood underneath.
Well, they didn't do any of all the weird made up stuff that was in there. They did have blading for blood. I mean, they didn't do anything like stunt grannies for blood.
Stunt grant, exactly. And I think a broken clock is right twice a day. I mean, they had probably some truth in the midst of all that. But yeah, man, that's special. I remember watching that when it came out. One note, just want to get your comment on it quickly before we wrap up. Kurt Hawkins did not debut this week, as was said, instead because he was supposed to make his reemergence.
That sounds right. I mean, now they're saying it's gonna be next week.
Yeah.
They're still doing the Chuck Norris gimmick. I don't know what to expect. I don't know why this is his gimmick.
Yeah.
But he's back next week.
If Styles wins, with your prediction, do you think Cena returns next week? Or how much longer do you think they keep Cena off TV?
I mean, what is it? I'm trying to think. Is he shooting American Grit now, or is he doing other stuff?
He did last week. Didn't he do the dark match after the show?
But he wasn't around this week.
I don't know.
I'm just trying to think I'm trying to remember how long he's actually supposed to be out for.
Gotcha. And
because I don't think there was a return as far as the house shows and him being advertised for any of the house shows. I don't think there was any kind of return date, right? I mean, I think there was just.
But granted,
I'm not sure.
They flew him across country when he was working on the Teen Choice or the ESPYs or whatever. They flew him out just to do a quick 5-minute run-in. And by the way, I could be wrong about the dark match. That could have been someone else entirely last week. But I think I'll be curious how much longer they keep him off TV. But I think they have a good storyline for his reemergence. Cool, man. So I think that covers everything for this week. David, people can follow you on Twitter. They can find that in our show notes along with my Twitter as well. Anything you want to plug? Any new articles? Anything you're working on?
I mean, of course, I'll have the live UFC coverage on Wrestling Inc. this Saturday. Trying to think, is there anything else big to plug right now? If you want to hear me talk more about the Punk stuff, I am going to be on Sure Dog's Press Row podcast. Taped that earlier this morning with my buddy Jordan Breen. I mean, otherwise, I mean, don't want to plug too much stuff, so that's it for now. So
Cool.
yeah.
So we'll be back here, of course, Sunday immediately following Backlash. Check that out with Raj Giri, Matt Morgan, and Vince Russo. And then, of course, I'll be back on Monday night for our SmackDown coverage. And David and I will be back here next Wednesday, where tentatively we will have Andrew Zarian from the GFQ Network and the Matmen podcast joining us as a guest. Just to make sure everything keeps aligning with that. But it'll be great to have Andrew on the show. So until next time, I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and I'll see you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.